Good morning, traders. Happy New Year. Happy 2024. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed their holiday because it's time to get back to work, right? Oh my God, look at this. Are we having fun already? Anyway, well, let's get right to it here because we've had some pretty big moves in all these markets. I think a little bit had to do with the credit markets, but we won't even get into why. Let's just, we look at the charts like a doctor looks at an EKG chart, and to look under the hood, right? Okay, so let's take a look at this MP chart. Now, this rally right here was, you could see how we had smaller ranges going into the very end of the year, kind of just balanced at the very top. And Thursday, the day before the last day of the year, is when we made the overnight highs, right? So let me get my little drawing tools out here just to, okay, they're somewhere here. Okay, so if you look at this, we looked at this last year, but I want to just remind you, this is really a trappish high that when we made the year high there, for the most part, U.S. session didn't confirm. And that's always kind of a little skeptic, when I see that, because it's usually a bull trap. New yearly highs 2 days before the end of the year, and then of course Thursday night, uh, we attempted to take out the highs, but couldn't really do it in the overnight market. And then we opened up on Friday, opened up lower, and that's what started this, sell off. Right. So it kind of kicked it off a little bit. And then the overnight session failed to test the US session. So there's a series of things that happen. And then when we took out this point of control, right around that 4814 area, high volume node, point of control, the low of Asia, the market fell apart. And we got below the previous value area. So it was just a combination of things that continue to get us to break, right? Okay, so meanwhile, I wanted to point out something that I mentioned last year. When you look at the daily chart, you know how we broke out of this retest and we got the move going. And then we had this big extension, CPI, FOMC, all these, kind of gave us that boost after trying to balance here, right? We got the first PAV sell here, 4 days of price overlap, took out 4 days. The previous last week of the year took out the lows. And 4760 basically is the um, daily EMA, right? The other thing I wanted to point out, that I pointed out last week was I want you to look at the monthlies here. And you could see when we closed on all-time highs in 2021 at that time, we opened up and we took out the highs by just like 10 handles, I think it was. No, 8 handles. And then we had January is one of the biggest down months we've had in a long time in January. And that was 600 points to the downside. So, I mean, I'm not saying that necessarily we're going to do that, but it's very much the same as 2021, where the market couldn't do anything wrong. They bid it up all the way to the very end, and in January we opened a lot lower and really never returned. Okay, just just saying. Okay, so for today, let's go back to here. The market stopped right at this untested PLC here. We feel, we're probably going to come back into this area and maybe fill in some of these old single prints that we did before, but, kind of do a little bit of filling in. But we also have a gap coming in from the opening from Friday's last day of the year's low, right, which right around that 96 area, that, you know, they might try to get up there, but this was some pretty serious damage on you know, the overnight market. So you might see some a little nervousness on the opening. But if they take out the lows of the day, um, which the overnight lows, let me just give you that figure, is 47.7725. And that was the untested PLC. You know, generally, when I look at this untested PLC here, I want to see it tested during the US session, right? Okay, so here we are. This might hold for now, and the level that we could pivot off of pretty much is this 84.85 area, and that just so happens to be a level and a PLC from the overnight point of control, right? So the market, you know, if it catches a little rally, they might come in off the early morning lows, or I mean Friday's lows, and rally up to there and fill the gap to like 47.96. It's going to be interesting because it's the first day of the year. Anything can happen. You can see profit taking because, you know, they held off taking profit last year. So we'll see. But also we have all these other markets that are really shaking it up, right? Okay, so let's go to the meanwhile, my pivot, by the way, is right at this 48.05. I mean, I think if they get back up to 48.05 first time up there, that's the bottom of the value area from the ES US session from Friday. And it was a pretty big level over here. It was also point of control, and this is where the market, you know, had another push up. So just looking at that as a reasonable area to say that if we get above there, we get above the big 48 number, you know, that we might fill in these single prints from Europe session. Asia was quiet, but this happened in Europe, and it happened really hard and fast. Uh, I'm not going to get into the fundamentals. There were some fundamental reasons to kick it off, but at this point, we just look at these charts to decide uh, where they're going to go, because fundamentals never seem to be um, the way to look at it, because it's almost a fade most of the time. But okay, so let's go to the next chart, right? Okay, the crude. So the crude looks like it wants to you know, continue to move higher, but I think first, you know, they can pull it down, maybe the pivot. And if we look at the crude here, hang on a second. Let's bring up the crude for a second here. You can see the crude's been really disjointed, back and forth, a lot of spikes. But I think I do like the crude for the most part, and I think the crude will maintain and probably have a revisit of the highs. But we're already up $1.12. So, you know, first they come back down and you know, feel out their way here. The pivot for me in the crude comes in at 72.21, right below the value area, right? From the overnight session, the top of the value area from the US session, and you can see same here and where these single prints are. So pretty big area. 72.18 to 20 is my pivot. I don't know if we're going to get back down there. I'd almost expect the market to return to sender and come back up and possibly test the highs before the end of the day. That would just be my 2 cents. It's just an opinion. Doesn't mean it's got to happen, right? But that's, I always say what's on my mind. All right. This gold is at a pretty big area. This 2071 was a big area. It's my pivot. It turns out they stopped at the pivot, the overnight lows. Yeah, it was also a kind of a pivotal area here. It's the bottom of this high volume area from Friday. So, you know, they get down there, might be a good place to look for a bounce, right? But I'm going to watch this pivot coming in around 2071 and see if it holds. Below there, we've got other numbers. Got 69, and then you got the U.S. session low right around 67 from Friday. So now, in the big picture, we do have a gap. I don't think we're going to get too far, but I think we could test possibly the pivot. We'll see. All right. All right. Let's take a look here. The EC. Now, the EC definitely fell out of bed here. Had a much bigger push down. And this was such a bull trap because we made these highs in the overnight market, opened up below the previous US session market, and that started this move. But we did rally super quick, and what goes up quick, the way I look at it, it comes down quick. This was a pretty sharp rally for the EC. So all we did was come back down to where the market balanced, right? And now we can see if this is going to hold or not, this whole area down below. All right. So currently we took out the overnight lows, but we've got a huge amount of work here that we can come back into, but I wouldn't count out testing these lows here, previous lows. It's the inside pocket from a couple weeks ago, 109.82, and I'm sorry, 109.73. Basically, it's also there's the low volume and the high volume areas, attract and detract. It's kind of a valley, saying the market doesn't like to go there pretty much, and we'll respect it. We'll see if it does. And then not too far below that, you've got the high volume node at 109.55 to 109.60, which is also the 200 daily SMA and the high volume node side. Don't think we're going that far, but if we do, that should hold. We'd be in big trouble, I think, in the EC if they took that out. But I have a feeling that, we'll try to test this 109.73.74, and I would look to see if we have a test reject and it holds it. I expect the market to come back up. All right. My pivot is way up there, and I know that sounds crazy, but this can get filled at some point today. It's not out of the question, so we'll just leave it at that. Okie dokie. All right. Let's look at the bonds, because the bonds were the mover and shaker. It kind of started this break. You can see we had a big break below the the overnight. Well, I'm sorry, the U.S. session lows from Friday, and this was right on the Asia Open, and we kind of traded here for a little bit, and then we fell apart. If I open this up, you could see it a little bit better how it looks. This is how the market looked. If you were to take this market profile structure, build it out, expand it into the 30-minute bars, you can see we had no real chance to get short unless the first 2 hours you were short. Market broke already at that point, 22 handles, did a little trying to balance here, and then took out this high volume node. And you see where that comes in, how the high volume node is so important. That was the hump there. And we came back down to what? The next high volume node. So that's a little textbook anyway. And if you were to look at this gap, I'm going to put in this gap just so that we can keep an eye on the gap going into this morning here. As we're filling it, we're starting to fill it, you can see. But it's from here to here. So we've got a pretty big gap from Friday's low right around that 124.10 area. And we were down at 123.09, which was a big area. It held, and it was the overnight lows. We just tested it, did a quick test reject, and now we're coming back into maybe filling in part of this gap. I don't know that we'll fill it all in, but at least this 123.30 is a pretty reasonable expectation. Okay. All right. My pivot, like the EC, is way up here. You could see how this was a big area. This was the valley. This was kind of the right around the PLC. A lot of highs right in this area. So I look for areas where the market can potentially really flip, and that's where I feel it could. But right now, we're well below it. We had a nice break. So let's see if we fill in some of this gap above. All right. All right, let's go back to the beginning here, starting. And I want to show you like how this really looked. There's no real chance to get short if you're in the middle of the night. I mean, this happened, kind of like in the early morning, 3, 4 in the morning, and the market really did most of the push down here early in the morning, and now it's trying to find some footing and balance. We're at the PLC pretty much from Europe at the moment, comes in right around this 85. And if we rally to 96, that should fill in these uh, the gap uh, from Friday's low. But I think we'll be playing in both sides of the arena. They might try to pop them a little bit initially, but the first day of the year after making new highs like that, it's very trappish. So uh, we'll see what the market wants to do. You never know, because in the first week, there's all kinds of money coming in the market, coming out, profit taking into the new year. So it should be a lot of fun. And I think this year we're going to have plenty of volatility, plenty of trades in the room, I'm sure, with this volatility, because there's opportunity when there's volatility, right? All right. So with that being said, let's get ready for the opening. We got 6 minutes. I'm going to let the first 15 minutes kind of play out. It's the first 15 minutes of the year. You know, let it do its thing. Chances are we'll do a quick pop up to fill the gap to Friday's low, and then maybe return down and test the other side, but we'll see. All right. Be back in a couple minutes. Just gonna refill my coffee and let's see how the opening looks.